Welcome to Raging Bullets, a comics fan podcast, Season 2, Episode 20. We begin Absolute Power, Part 1.
From the sleepy suburbs of Cleveland, Ohio, there are assembled the world's two greatest podcast hosts, created from the cosmic legends of the universe. Sean Whalen.
Welcome to Raging Bullets, a DC Comics fan podcast. I'm a big fan of variant colors. My love for Batman is that stuff. Let's talk some comics.
And Jim Segulin.
How's it going, eh? You know me and Superman. I'm really loving what they're doing. Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast.
Their mission, to discuss DC comics in books, movies, and television several times a month in 1 to 3 hour episodes. And to serve all mankind.
Outstanding!
Welcome to Raging Bullets. I'm Sean Whalen, drnorge, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Jim, the always sensational sensei of the whatnot, Segulin. How's it going, Jim?
How's it going, eh?
On this episode, we're going to be talking about the books covered in July 2024 of Absolute Power number 1, Origins, Task Force VII 1 through 3, and the July 2024 tie-ins. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Segulin, what's going on over at DCBService.com?
We have JSA number 1, written by Jeff Lemire, 50% off, $199. And keeping with the 50% off thing, we have Justice League Unlimited number 1, written by Mark Waid, 50%, $199. Thank you, DCBS.
I'm very excited for those books. Over at InStockTrades.com, we have their deals of the week. We have Batman Hardcover Volume 3, The Joker Year 1, $29.99 regularly, 50% off, only $14.99. Nightwing, Time of the Titans. This is Volume 5 of the hardcover series, $24.99 regularly, 50% off, only $12.49. And another book that I highly recommend if you haven't had a chance to check it out, Ultimate Spider-Man by Jonathan Hickman. Trade paperback, Volume 1, $19.99 regularly, 46% off, only $10.79. Thank you, DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show. Mr. Segulin, what kind of a podcast are we?
Raging Bullets is a spoiler podcast. We go in-depth into plot lines, story twists, and whatnot of the books we're discovering on today's show. So if you haven't read the books, you may want to come back later so you can better enjoy the show.
Let's talk some comics.
Hope this craft can withstand this powerful force.
Our first discussion this episode is going to be of Absolute Power number 1, Chapter 1, Powerless. The writer is Mark Waid. The artist is Dan Mora. Colors are by Alejandro Sanchez. Letters by Ariana Mayer. The cover by Dan Mora. Variant cover by Jim Lee, Scott Williams, Alex Sinclair, Chris Samney, Matthias Lopez, Stephen Bliss, Wes Craig, and Dan Mora. Power Participation variant cover by Daniel Sampier and Alejandro Sanchez. Versus variant cover by Puppeteer Lee. Sandbox variant cover by Chris Zulo. Associate editor is Matt Levine. Editor is Paul Kaminsky. Superman created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. Superboy created by Jerry Siegel. Supergirl based on the characters created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster by special arrangement with the Jerry Siegel family. Woo! We're coming off of doing a series of episodes on Blood Hunt, which was, I thought, fantastic. And now we jump into this, and whew, boy, this feels like coming home.
Oh, man.
I've read so many events over the years, and what it really, both companies, DC, Marvel, and actually outside of DC and Marvel, Valiant's had great events over there. Let's not go in through all of them, but so many companies have had like these really great crossover events, just bigger scale stories that just have big impact. This one really, it's funny, thematically, it does something that Blood Hunt did. Blood Hunt had a sense of danger to it, like real danger going on throughout it. This does too. And what I love about it is there's a darkness to what's happening, but sometimes when you do DC stories, it's kind of the criticism of the Snyderverse, right? Was the fact that there was this real dark tone to it, in the sense like almost a dark sheen to how it was being delivered. And by the way, I love the Snyderverse. But in retrospect, taking a look at like the Christopher Reeve Superman movies, for example, and then seeing what was being done there, I can see how there was a different sort of flavor that maybe didn't grab everybody because of that dark tone. This is a dark story, but the heroes feel very DC. I hope I'm making sense in what I'm saying here. I get like it's funny how this makes me see the flavor difference that some people were looking for, because this captures all of the pieces. It's the danger for the heroes that I love. It's also Mark Waid exploring some things with Batman in particular, in presentation that he had explored previously. Batman's plans, to a certain extent, backfiring on him. With all the best of intentions. And that's a portion of this. Not the whole thing, but it's a portion of this. I love this story. I've read... So we're doing the July 2024 books. Everything that's Absolute Power and the related tie-ins. I read everything related to this. Not because I had to. I just couldn't stop reading. I stuck to July because of the fact that I didn't want to be sitting there revealing things that are going to be going on. But man, these July stories were absolutely incredible. What about you? Where's this event for you?
Dude, man, I'm loving this already. I'm jumped in. And like you said, it's like coming home. And I agree completely. One of the things that, and again, with any event like this, the good guys are going to win. You know it. There's not going to be Waller's crew. It's not going to be the new DCU, and it's not going to take it. So the heroes are eventually going to win. But how they get there is always the cool part of the story. So when you have a creator who can say, how it's going to end, but it's the journey that's part of the fun. And I think that's what we're getting here. I've quoted multiple times. We knew Death in Superman was going to die, but the process getting there, and then even when you finally see him dead, you're like, whoa, you still had that emotional response. Same thing here. We know the heroes are going to triumph somehow. But the question is how? Where is this going to play out? How do they take them down? And just the layout that they're doing with this has been absolutely brilliant, to the point where I was like cheering. And again, there's something going on in comics. And I noticed this, when we were talking Blood Hunt, and even before that when we were talking some other stuff. They're using less inner dialogue, less of the thought balloons. It's more of what you see is what you get. And sometimes it's kind of a neat, really cool moment. And I think that's something that's really been adding to the power on this, and that we don't really have the side stuff, what's going on in their head. We don't see, if they're doing a little sleight of hand, or if they're all we can base on is what we see and what we read for their dialogue. And I like that. And I'm really enjoying that usage of that, of that tool. And again, when you're talking just dark trend, this is very dark in that, the heroes have lost the first round. The first round of fight, they lost. Waller won. And I love the fact that it is the Wall, because she is the master strategist. The strategery of Waller is unparalleled to anybody. And I love the fact that she played Batman. Batman is the chess master. He just got schooled. And I love the fact that it was the Wall who did it. I was like, damn, that is awesome.
She played everybody. And that's really, and the key there is that she accounted for everybody. I'm sorry, that's not me disagreeing with you. I'm more building on what you're saying, because yes, she accounted for Batman. She accounted for Wonder Woman. She accounted for Superman. She accounted for all of them, yes. Which is a very, very hard thing to do. And she did it by the fact that it's not just her. It was very strategic partnerships in what she was doing, or people that were under her control. So because everyone's really, let's make it clear, it's not really partnerships, except maybe with the United Planets. It's on Earth. She's kind of controlling the entire chessboard. Yeah. And
she's, I think, controlling United Planets as well.
Yeah.
She's recognized their weakness, and the fact that they look at Earth as this puddle of mud, inferior to them. She's like, okay, I'm going to play off of that. And she used them just as well, just like she used Brainiac, just like she used everybody. And again, the Wall is made master, unbelievable steps here to do what she did. And I was just like, damn, this is awesome. And I think I also loved about the story. Like you, I've only read, part 1. of Absolute Power, just the July stuff. I'm not going ahead because I don't want to spoil it, but I know the second we're done recording, I'm jumping on the next part because it's killing me to know where this goes. And I think that is something about the desire to read everything. You know, when we talk Blood Hunt, I wanted to read stuff. You know, when I started diving into this, immediately said, okay, what's the connected stuff? Okay, what did I got to read there? Then, you know, there was a title, you know, it was a Green Lantern. I wasn't completely, you know, I still had to, you know, well, Green Arrow, not Lantern, Green Arrow. I hadn't read up to where it was. So I went back a couple issues before this to make sure I could fully see where this played out, how this all played out, the pre-stuff to Absolute Power. So I think that for me was kind of neat in that, you know, this story not only got me interested in this, I wanted to read the connections. And then I'm like, oh, I got to read more of this. I got to see the lead into that. And it wasn't I've got to do this for the podcast. It was, I personally wanted to read these stuff. You know, and I think that is the strength of a really cool story that gets you going, I want to read more. I want to read more. And again, thank you to the DC app, you know, for making this possible for me very easily, which I'm starting to really get better navigation on the system. Going, okay, put that in favorites. I can find it easy. Put that there. And I'm moving around. I'm bobbing and weaving through this app. I'm digging it, man. I'm really having fun right now.
Yeah, and to your point about the DC app, one of the things I really enjoy is they keep improving it. I feel like the way that you manage comics and things like that, and there just keeps getting better in that app. I bought that yearly subscription to the super duper version, whatever. The one thing I wish that they'd do that Marvel does, because I really like it. So I got Marvel's super duper version. Here's where DC's app is superior. When you buy that version, you get the book sooner. And I do like that premium version where you get the book sooner. I wish Marvel's did the same thing. I kind of get it that both companies are trying to feel out like how digital works. Like it's funny, this is having a very positive effect for me right now, how much I'm enjoying comics right now, in the sense that I'm still going to comic shops almost every week now. And picking up things or certain issues that I want. It's funny, this has drawn me back to singles. What I'm looking for now in strange ways is variant covers. There's certain covers or certain main covers where I'm like, I really want that issue with that cover. I'm collecting more now in a very targeted way with singles, where I'm going to be honest, I still buy physical, but it's usually omnibuses. Absolute editions, usually like these cool collected editions that are coming out that are unique collections of things, because I just like to read things in collections. But now I've gotten in the past few months more floppies than I have in the longest time, just because there's specific issues that I want. With Blood Hunt, it was in particular not just, I originally got the Red Band issues because I wanted them physically. I liked that so much, I went back and got all of the issues regular because I wanted both. I'm like, I really do want both of this. I really enjoyed this story. And, certain tie-ins there were really, really important to me as well for that purpose. This story in particular, where it's hitting me, I love when stories are able to be contemporary. And it adds more of a real world grounded thing to it. And what I'm talking about, her assault in this begins with the media. And they're using deep fakes and AI technology and things like that to make this happen. Obviously on the next level, because they're using Brainiac's Frankenstein wife as a source of fishing out this information, controlling the media. To the point that they were even controlling the Daily Planet, where Lois doesn't want to put out stories until we've got all of the facts. Lois is trying to maintain an ethical newspaper in this thing, and their media's taken over. Well, the Wall is like, it doesn't matter what they're doing. We are going to control the narrative. We are going to deliver the narrative everywhere and anywhere. People are going to see what we want them to see. To the point where they even had people refuting that, hey, listen, this stuff might be deepfake technology. They had experts that were coming out and saying, no, this is it. This is legit. to further exclamation point. For anybody who was sitting there saying, hey, we've worked with these heroes for years. We know they're good people. This has to be some kind of hoax. Them verifying that this is, in fact, what's really happening. That campaign is very, very current, very, very contemporary. I'm a big fan of AI and forward-moving technology, but I want to be very clear on what I'm saying there. I'm also a big fan of it being ethical use of that technology. And I think as a society, as we move technologies forward, as we learn about new advancements, there's always ways to pervert those enhancements, and there's always ways to use it in effective ways to help people grow and do things and quality of life and be able to multitask and all the things that you can do with things like that. AI is still an emerging technology for all of us. I'm excited for it and wary of it for all the same reasons that people are. This plays heavily into that. It also plays into fascinations that go all the way back to our childhood of stuff that goes back to like Terminator and stuff like that, or the robots are taking over and those kind of things. I love how this feels very now. The technology, sure, and things that are in there are advancements beyond what's currently going now, but it's rooted in current issues, current concerns, and also showing how easily the media can manipulate you. And that's not paranoia. It's a reality of, as a society, I think we all need to be objective because of the fact that the media now has personalities in a very different way than it was when I grew up. It was Walter Cronkite, and I'm aging myself by saying that, delivering the news straight up, and you very rarely got opinion there. It was delivering the facts, and you did with the facts what were morally driven to do. Nowadays, because of the 24/7 news, in order to keep people watching, you need personalities. That's not a judgment of all of that. We just know that we just need to walk in knowing that people walk in with certain biases and things like that, and interact accordingly. This is playing off of all of that too, and it feels so real, and I love that. I love that this is very, very grounded in today. Like, I feel this is happening right now. Yeah. And I like that in the story. It's very, very smart, very, very well written. This is Mark Waid at the top of his game. I adore the writing of Mark Waid, and this is an example of a creator who continues to deliver, continues to move the needle. And that's hard to do. It's hard when you've told as many stories as Mark Waid has to continue to be able to deliver an A game like this. I'm blown away by this. Like, in all of the right ways. Summer events are supposed to make you wake up and perk up and get all excited about comics again. And man, talk about a 1-2 punch. I thought Marvel hit it out of the park with theirs. DC's doing the same thing with this. I'm all about being a fan right now. And I love that that's not something I'm driving from the inside out. It's being shoved down my throat by just quality.
Yes. Oh, God, yeah. And I'll tell you, I echo everything you said about how Mark Waid is just crafting just a brilliant piece of work here, but also the art team along with it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I loved this opening sequence with Superman, where you've got the flunkies who've got no chance against Big Blue, and the one guy panics and he shoots off a couple rounds at Superman. They're like, you're just making it worse. And then the look of shock on Clark's face as he sees the blood. Then he falls back, and that full-page spread of him falling down, the blood coming at the chest wound going on, even the droplets of blood that they have in the air as he's falling. I'm like, whoa, and that's, again, a very powerful piece. And it's funny because this is part of the sneak peeks and all the previews that we've seen.
Yeah.
So, again, it's something we've seen multiple times, but it still has an effect. It still has some power, just seeing Superman falling from the sky, bleeding. Mm-hmm. Not only bleeding from chest wounds. I'm like, dang, this is awesome. I loved this opening sequence. And then you go from that.
Wait, hold on. If you can hold on for 1 second before you go from that, because I want to talk about that image of him falling. Yeah. And it's even the build up to it. A lot of times we focus very heavily on facial expression, which, oh my gosh, it's so there in this one. The look on Superman's face of just disbelief over what has just happened is really, really critical, incredibly well drawn. It's the whole body look at the way the hands are, the outstretched. He's almost like prone and powerless in the way that he's falling. Seeing, that whole piece, it's a very, very beautiful use of the whole figure. And it's the majesty and the beauty of what's behind him, the big city, but seeing it from that perspective. Him falling, we're looking down on it. We are looking down on that from that perspective as he's falling and seeing that happen, like we're almost up on the rooftop seeing this happen. That's something that is really, really powerful. And it's a beautiful, beautiful art piece. You mentioned the art team before. Kudos to them. Because I'm not an artist, so a lot of times when I do my own art commentary, I'll focus on very particular things, particularly facial expression is one that's a telltale for me. In this one, what really stood out for me is the whole figure and the whole environment and the way that it was drawn. Is something I'm trying to pay more attention of. What other things, what other tricks, what other visuals are they using to give you this sense of motion, the sense of atmosphere, the sense of mood, the way the cape is, wrapped around him. Just tiny details that I really appreciate. The cape is because he's falling backwards. The cape is flowing around him. I love just that visuals, just really particular attention to detail. That's stuff that takes time and that it fine-tuned details that give you this real sense of what is actually happening here. And the blood droplets, you mentioned that earlier. The fact that we've got larger blood droplets closer to us because of it, I just love that it gives it a very three-dimensional feel on something that is very flat. And kudos and brilliance to the art team. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there, but it was you were going with something that I just thought was spectacular and wanted to talk about it. So please continue.
Oh, no, I agree. And one of the things I love was how we get this image that we've seen all the time. We've seen this multiple times. Then you flip the page and it goes 28 hours earlier.
Yeah.
So it gets the lead into that. And we go into Animal Man and Animal Girl. And this is our introduction to the media market, the media campaign, the smear campaign, the fake news, whatever you want to call it. This was, Wall's first front, her first attack was the media. And then she's taking out the powers. And I loved how they laid this out. Because, again, going to someone like Animal Man and Animal Girl, not big names, not heavy hitters, but using them as the initial stuff. And you go into seeing that result with Bruce, and Damien watching the results from, Gotham, seeing what's going on. And it's the beginning of the layout of this attack. And I thought that was absolutely brilliant usage of the 28 hours before. Just that laying down. We saw the end result of Superman getting shot, taken out of the sky, losing his powers. Then you go, okay, now for the lead-in. Time to show you what happened before that. Again, great usage of the story. And I love the artwork where it pops. And then when you get into the cave, it goes back down to a little bit darker. And even when they're showing the media stuff, of how it's got a different view, a different look to it. So again, our team playing 100% on point with this issue.
28 hours earlier, though, isn't the start of this. It is the story already in progress.
Right.
Because the media attack had gone on long before that, and we're actually seeing real-time reaction to the media attack, where people are scared, so scared that they're violently reacting to what's going on. They look at Animal Man and Animal Girl coming down as a threat. They're coming in the middle of this. The damage has already been done. The beatdown that we see there to the point where we don't know Animal Man's status right now is, what's he going to be like after this? I'm very anxious to see, because I love Animal Man. I think Animal Man's a great character. I loved his multiple, actually, series with Animal Man. And particularly the one that focused on him and his daughter. Jeff Lemire did the great series with Animal Man. Really, really enjoy the character. Him getting beat down like this, I want to see the after effects of this, the ramifications for him, just because of that. And what does that mean for him going forward? Because the question becomes, when people do this to you, obviously you're going to recognize and blame the appropriate people, the Wall, and stuff like that, but also the severity. Like, how do you come back after this and want to protect people when they do this to you? Can you separate and go, okay, they're victims of what the media's done with them, but At what point in time do you hold them responsible for their actions? The severity of the beatdown of what they were doing. They were on the level of trying to kill him.
Yes.
And how do you come back and sit there and go, okay, I'm going to turn the other cheek, which is the concept, right? And that's a story I want to read. Where does his journey go from here? And what does that mean? And that to me is good comics. Whether we get that story or not, I want it. I want to see what's going on with this character. This is something that really is just hitting on a layered level. And I love that there's a sequence like this that meant that much to me, that I'm thinking on that level with this sequence.
Well, and I'll tell you, when I was reading this thing, the first thought that popped in my head was, this would be my supervillain moment.
Yes.
If I was a hero, as soon as I got my powers back, I would start re-examining, do I actually want to fight for these people that just did this to me? Or am I going to start becoming the evil version of me and conquering them? Am I going to go the other way with this? Because that's, that I think is a very difficult thing to do after you see something like this, to say, why am I risking my life for them? Why am I putting myself in danger to help them? And I think that's the story I want to see. I want to see what happens to some of these heroes. Like Animal Man is one, I really want to know what he does after this. Does he say, forget it? If he survives, because again, the media article said chances of survival are uncertain, and I'm assuming the Wall picked him up. The Wall took him out of the hospital, and he's in lockdown somewhere because she wants to get her hands on every single, anyone with power. So I'm assuming the Wall has him. He's not still in a hospital, but even if he's still in a hospital, maybe he's coma, soon to be dead. Who knows what's going to happen with this guy? And if he survives, I would think twice about helping people. I would forget this. I'm just going to take care of me. Okay, villain's going to kill your family. Hey, good luck. You handle with it. I'm not putting my life in danger anymore. Not for you. And I think that is where I want to see if we get some of that kind of reaction.
So you haven't seen any of the future artwork, the stuff coming soon, the
no,
previews for December. So you didn't see the one so there's this image. It's actually really famous now. It's of Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman. They're all looking in shock, and the tagline at the top is "Animal Man Goes Feral." You haven't seen that?
Nice. Hey, I'll be honest with you. I think that'd be good. Let me meet a couple people. Show them, hey, you want to be afraid of me? Okay, I'm going to show you what to be afraid of.
Right. Well, I mean, that's what's interesting about this. You sit there and go, woof, who do they? What motivates them afterwards, and where does this story go? I love that about this real danger, and where does all of this go? It sets the stage. One of the things that has come up in this story is that there's no Justice League right now. The need for that symbol is going to be pivotal after this, right? This does set the stage for, and I'm not doing this as a spoiler standpoint. We know as a DC universe, we've got a missing team, the Justice League. We also don't have a Justice Society monthly. It's setting the stage for why you need these big teams to be symbols. And this, I love when stories like this set the stage for a need in the universe. You need them spinning out of these events. You need them to be symbols. And what the world looks like in their interactions with that world are going to be very, very interesting out of this. What does all of this look like post this? This right now is setting a very dangerous stage for the DC universe. And I like it. I really, really like it. I'm with you totally on the color tones. I love when artists are able to do that. We're now seeing what's going on with Animal Man in real time. Then we're seeing it on television. And there's that filter over there that makes it clear that they're watching it on screen in the Batcave in Gotham City. Damian's continued evolution is something I really like. I like the look of his age in this, if I'm making any sense. Because, we're going back to the early days when Grant Morrison introduced the character. He looked younger in those sequences. I'm glad that we're seeing a Damian that is gradually aging. I don't need to see adult Damian right now, but I get this idea that, we've gotten a few years on Damian at this point in time. And it's the appropriate evolution of Damian. the next pages, when we're starting to take a look at the greater universe, Mr. Terrific, Nightwing, Wonder Woman, and Aquaman all being impacted by, and Green Lantern, all being impacted by this particular piece, is something that just really stands out for me. It gives you really quickly and moves really, really fast to scale, because some of these are characters, including Hawkman, who are going to be taken off the board pretty quick in this story. So seeing them out in the world at large is something, and I'm going to tell you strategically, if there's somebody I'm going to try to take out pretty quickly, it's going to be Hawkman.
Yeah. Well, and I like the fact that he was the voice of reason, kind of, here.
Yes.
Because they're throwing out there, Wally's like, hey, we got to do something. And he's like, such as have the Justice League issue a statement. Wally, there is no Justice League, right? You remember? You disbanded. And I love just that note right there was, again, Hawkman just saying, hey, this was perfectly set up. They let the Justice League disband, which served their purpose. The Wall moved into the Hall of Justice, took over their space. They let that happen. All this stuff was building up by the Wall's plan on them. I love how, again, this was a master plan, multiple levels of the Wall being the Wall.
She also has issued a public statement. This is in a world that has has a government, has a president of the United States, has all of those pieces that are in there. And the Wall has used the shock and terror of the media as a way to say, okay, now is my chance to take real power here, and I am going to completely push forward my agenda and my handling of my agenda by reacting to the fear that's going on right now, the fear that I've created that's going on right now, so I can implement all of the pieces that I have wanted to put in place. Do you believe, let's talk about Amanda really quick, because we'll dig a little deeper into her origin story from Absolute Power Origin, which is amazing, by the way. Yeah. If you have not read that, do yourself a favor. It is a backstory of Amanda Waller that so totally sets up this piece. And to me, it's a critical read, because even just reading the first issue of that so far, it sets the stage for, she believes this is the right thing to do. I'm not saying that we should agree with her or anything like that, but she has been, her and her family have been wronged. Her reaction is that she believes the only way to handle this in a world that has taken control away from her and her family and taken the lives of her and her family. Her belief is this is the only real way to protect the world. I do believe that she believes deep down that her evil, and she would totally agree that she is the person strong enough to cross the lines that others won't for the greater good. I believe that's how she views things. Do you see her differently? And that's not a setup question. I'm genuinely, that's where my head's at with Amanda Waller right now, especially with how this storytelling is. Where are you at with Amanda Waller?
Okay, the Wall is, and first off, I agree with you completely on your assessment of the Wall. She 100% is willing to do, it's the old adage, to make an omelet, you got to break a couple eggs.
Yeah.
She's okay with breaking some eggs for the greater good. The greater good is getting rid of the threat. The greatest threat to humanity are the supers. It's the superheroes. It's the vigilantes. It's all those people who operate outside of the law, outside of her control, outside of, just that, again, that superhero community. That's where she sees the greatest threat. That's what needs to be destroyed. Superman is no more worse than any of his rogues. His rogues are bad. He is bad. Batman is, caused the problems for Gotham in her mind. The Flash, you name a hero, the Flash has all his rogues. Well, if it wasn't for the Flash rogues, the Flash, would he have his rogues? And that's the kind of mindset she's got going on there. So she's okay with innocent people dying if it means stopping the greater evil that are the superpowered, are the vigilantes, And I love, just again, who she thinks she is, who she 100% knows she is, and just the fact that she's like, I know I'm right here. This is the right thing to do. And that is, something that's always been, the Wall's always been that master manipulator. This one, now she's turning it up a notch. Now we're seeing what the Wall's end game was. The Wall always had a plan It wasn't just about, controlling, controlling her own little universe. It's always been this. This has been the Wall's master plan to get rid of the heroes. And I love the fact that now we're seeing her make her move. Now she's got everything in line. She's got everything set. She can make her move to remove the superheroes. And it's funny how you think back to all the times we talked about with Lex. If Lex would just work with Superman, the great things they could accomplish, because he sees Superman as this great threat to humanity. The Wall has a very similar mindset, but it's not just one hero. It's every single one of them.
Yeah.
They are they're flashy. They look nice. Everyone's like cheering, yay! But in reality, she's like, no, they're all evil. They need to be stopped. And I love that.
The conversation she has with Sarge Steel, and Sarge Steel actually refers to the disinformation's working. Her philosophy, I believe she genuinely believes this. Calling it disinformation isn't really fair. I've said it for years. Superheroes are anything but. They create more trouble than they avert. They have absolute power, and they answer to no one. They adhere to a child's idea of morality, and like all children, they occasionally have tantrums. Tantrums that could turn the world to ash. I call that information. We're simply reminding people of that fact. And I really believe that she believes that. And which is really interesting about this piece, because there's villains and heroes and everything in between where what they're saying is some form of motivator. It's not necessarily something that they own, something that they really believe in. Villains in particular, tend to be devious on the things that they're saying and trying to do. In this particular case, I really genuinely believe she is driven, and it's one of the reasons why I think she's being so effective. When somebody so wholeheartedly believes in something, they can bring people to their cause. Even in the case of doing the duplicitous things that Amanda Waller's done, she gets people who will support her. Like Sarge Steel, I believe he's completely drinking the Kool-Aid.
I agree with you, but there is part of Sergeant Steel that has him on edge.
Yeah.
And I love that his conversation that he had with Failsafe about it.
You're right. Completely is a strong word. You're right.
Yeah. Because he's like, he believes in he's like, I've swore to protect this country from invaders, foreign and domestic. So he's in on that level, but he does question, is this, how much of this is just a desire? How much of this is a goal? What are we actually doing here? What exactly is this? And in a way, he's thinking, is this just the Wall's personal grievance against the supers? Are they truly a threat? Mm-hmm. And that's something. He agrees that hey, there's something going on here. With these supers, we got to watch them. We got to monitor them. But I don't know if he's 100% all in on slaughter them all. I think that is going to be kind of an interesting thing that's going to play out, because Steele is full-on Team Waller. I don't see him double-crossing her or betraying her or anything like that down the pipeline. But he is, he has his concerns. And I like the fact that he does have his concerns, because this isn't just some puppet that the Wall's manipulating.
No.
This is a person who's in on her cabinet, who's in on the group, who's there of his own free will, who's thinking things through. He's there because he believes the mission, but he's not, blinded by the mission.
Here's where the dialogue matches everything you're saying, and I'm actually going to correct myself. Complete is a very strong word. I agree with you that I think he's loyal to Amanda. And I think it's probably a better use of the word. I feel like right now he's very loyal to Amanda, but he doesn't refer to it as our war. It's always Amanda's war. Amanda sees. Amanda believes. Amanda this. It's not we believe. We, you know what I mean? And that dialogue is very well written. And that's Wade's dialogue. Wade's telling us exactly what you're talking about here. Who Sarge Steel is. This is not our war. It's Amanda's war. And those key distinctions over this piece, I think, are really, really critical. And he's very consistent in his use of that dialogue, which tells you exactly where Sarge Steele really is in these scenarios. So you're right, because that's how in real life, when you believe something so much so that it's your core philosophy, it's never hers, it's ours. And I think that's really smart dialogue usage in this that works real well. I want to flip back a little bit and just super quickly. The use of Brainiac's wife, mate, bride, whatever you want to call her, the computer where Amanda's not just sending out the message, superheroes are coming for you. She's sending out that message over and over again. People are being inundated to the point where just when you get calm, another incident has happened, right? Yep. And this is now something where people who may have been questioning one hero going bad before or a team of heroes going bad are now seeing all of them go bad because of the fact that these things are happening in phases. Well, this is happening over in France. This is happening over in New Orleans. This is happening over in Ohio. This is happening over in Los Angeles. And these heroes aren't there, but people don't know that. They're watching the media, and they're seeing it blast on their phones. They're seeing it blast on their tablets. They're seeing it blast on their computers. They're seeing it blast on the television and other media. They're sitting at restaurants and places like that, and it's interrupting their games. And it's it's that level of you can't get away from it because of how she's using this. That's where it's brilliant. Or even if you're trying to question it, as you're questioning it, another news article's coming in. You're seeing it happen right in front of you. How do you sit there and what's your argument? How do you come back and argue against it? You can't unless you are standing right there with the heroes. And that's the brilliant piece because she's setting that stage right now. She's setting the stage for the heroes. You want to hide, go ahead. But all you're doing is making it easier for me to keep doing this. Yeah. Which is the brilliant, you mentioned the strategy of Amanda. That strategy is brilliant right here, which is where her relationship with Failsafe also comes into this piece. This is really just phase one. Phase two is what's going on behind the scenes. It's what are we going to do next? Get them out in the open. I love how this is playing out because you just look back and when you do a reread, you're like, oh, it's elegant in its design because this was well planned out over time with the right strategic pieces being there. Some of these are pieces that heroes or villains actually put into play themselves, not for this intention at all.
Yes. Oh, big time, dude. And I'll tell you, I loved how, we've got the attack on Cyborg even. The technology level that he's trying to fight and he can't. Then it's Cyborg. You've got, Oracle, who's the master on the computer. She's having problems. This again, was this a brilliant, brilliant attack leading up to the true attack, which was the power stealing. And I love, again, I can't talk more about how much I love this game plan. I love this, strategy that the Wall laid out. This right here is a brilliant attack. Absolutely brilliant. And I loved how they laid it out, and the heroes figured it out, especially Batman figured it out too late. Mm-hmm. So they have to scramble. And when you get your heroes that are scrambling to try to, recover, you've got Batman over the mic telling people to run and hide. I love just that. You can kind of hear, the way they drew it in there, you can kind of see him almost have a panic to his voice. I was like, that for me was absolutely perfect. Where you've got if I'm a hero and I hear over the network Batman telling me to run and hide, I'm like, oh, this is not good, And even just you start thinking just how they laid this out, the very first attack. I love how they showed Superman, because at the beginning of this comic, we saw him get shot and fall from the sky. Now we're showing the actual attack. Yeah, we're showing the actual, but they don't really even show the they don't show him doing it. But the way they drew it, you see the one scene of Superman, is Soup standing there, and he's talking to this hero friend, saying, "Hey, we got to regain their trust." Just as he's about to deal with the bad guys who are breaking on the roof, and you see the background behind him, the attack's coming from behind. They're shooting him in the back with the energy to take away his powers. And I love just how they laid that out. Again, brilliant artwork workage, art usage here within the storytelling. I loved how this story was laid out.
Here's the piece they don't know, too, that this emergency frequency that they're using has already been compromised.
Yeah.
Everything they're delivering, every private message is being heard by all of them because that frequency has been compromised by Oliver Queen, which is we're going to have to talk more about this. But what Ollie's endgame is here, is Ollie really with them? Is Ollie not? The way that this is playing out is brilliant in that piece. Can we just start talking about Ollie Queen, because I feel like, how do I put this back in the, how do I put this one back away? So in Ollie's book, it's been gradually building to this. Green Arrow's book, by the way, if you're not reading it, is really, really a good read. I am a big, long time Green Arrow fan, and this is a really, really good Green Arrow book. But I do feel it's essential reading for this. Because of the fact that it really shows what's going on with him and his whole family and their reaction to him. I feel like Ollie is a double agent, and I feel like there are people on Amanda's team who know it, but I feel like he is gone out of his way to earn their trust. I feel like Ollie's going to come back and be on the side of the Angels. Like, he's going to be, I think, a linchpin to turning the tables. There's times, though, where the storytelling makes me feel like I might be wrong. And that's where I think it's really, really brilliant. I don't think I am, but I love that the story uncomfortably makes me question it. And that, to me, is really, really good storytelling. Where are you at with Ollie right now and everything that's happening with him?
Okay, so here's where I'm at with Ollie. You and I are looking at Ollie the same way, where he is, I think, a double agent. Mm-hmm. I think the Wall 100% knows he's planning on double-crossing her, and she's planned for it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But the question is, has she really planned for it? I think that's going to be the key. Where is Ollie's double-cross actually in? And I think my guess is this. So Ollie came over. Ollie presented Amanda, with the I'm drawing a blank on not the Medusa mask, but the Sanctuary.
Yeah.
It presented.
Sorry, I was wondering where you were going with that. Yes, she was looking for Sanctuary, and Ollie gave her Sanctuary.
Ollie gave her the Sanctuary program, and I think that's where the double cross happened. Mm-hmm. Everything after that has just been to be in position for when I think there's either a Trojan horse planted in there or something that is going on with that's going to be the ultimate. So it's going to look like, the entire time Ollie's been inside, and she's waiting for the double cross, and he's already done the double cross. It's kind of like, the Death Star, where there was that one little flaw that was built in, hidden deep inside there, that's so deep that no one would ever see it until it was exploited by Luke. And that was the whole thing. I think that's what we've got. We've got the one air shaft that they can shoot a rocket down to take all this out. And I think it came from Ollie giving them, Sanctuary. Because in his book, he has the one line when he's talking to Roy. He's like, I'm playing the long con here. You got to trust me. And that one line is what makes me think 100% Ollie's a double agent. And I think he's already planted his Trojan horse. I think he's already planted the bug in the system. It's just when will it flare up? I don't know. And I think that is kind of a neat part of this, where we're both seeing Ollie the same way. I can't see them turning Ollie bad, but who knows? Again, we don't know where the DC universe is going to look like after all of this. And I think that's kind of neat, a neat usage of this story arc. We know the heroes are going to win. We know that. But how are they going to win? What's the universe going to be like? What are the heroes going to be like after this? What's the Arrow family going to be like? There's so many different, what about this? What about that? That it's going to be, that's part of the brilliance of this story.
Where did you see Ollie say that I'm playing the long con here, to trust me?
I want to say issue 10 or issue 11. It wasn't in the actual, it was when they broke Cheshire out of the prison. And Ollie interrupted.
That was 13.
That wasn't 13? Okay.
And he never said that.
I could have swore I read it
No, he actually said the opposite. He said he believes in. I mean, he looked at Roy right in the face and said, "I believe in Waller."
It was in one of the. I could have swore I saw him tell somebody.
I haven't seen him. I'm just curious where you're reading that, because I haven't read that. I'm not disputing you. I actually want to see it. I just don't. I'm not seeing that anywhere in the reading with him, because he looked to the opposite. When he goes to kick him off the ledge there, he basically says that he believes in the wall, and adamantly said that he believes in it. He said he's not the rich playboy anymore. He hands everything off to Roy during those sequences, which here's where...
I found it.
Okay, where?
Issue 10.
Issue 10? Okay.
It's when he and Roy first meet up, and he's able to break Roy of the mindset that he was in, and he's like... where Roy's talking about, hey, I got the brain bomb. He's like, hey, no, it just disrupts you. Yeah, I know how to beat it. Then Ollie's like, we can get the sanctuary files and get out of here. Wait, you're still giving those to Waller? I'm working a long con here, Roy. You have to have trust. You have to trust me.
Okay.
Issue 10 is where he said, okay,
Perfect.
I knew I'd read it somewhere.
Yeah,
I knew it was between Roy and Ollie.
Yeah, that's what I was looking for from you. I wanted to see, like, where is that sequence, because... that's really critical. So we're setting the stage issues earlier, because his presentation now, and actually I think it's where it's working, when Ollie is anywhere he can be seen, and we're seeing this the exact same way, where Ollie is anywhere where there's any possibility of anybody be able to see him, hear him, things like that, Ollie is being very, very consistent on his presentation, that he is all in on Amanda Waller. I like that he wasn't believed when he kicked Roy off the edge. Where it was kind of like, man, that's cold, but you let him get away, and that was a really, really... Ollie is playing a very, very dangerous game here. Thank you for pointing that out, because I wasn't seeing it in issue 13 or 14. Much earlier, the Sanctuary Mask, I remember that sequence now very, very well. Yeah. That was when he first discovered that Roy was in there, and was outraged that Roy was in that particular situation. I'm glad that I do remember that now. Thank you for pointing that out, because that's a critical piece to this, because he's alerted Roy to that. And it's something clear that his family is holding on to. Not all of, some of them are questioning things. Even Connor Hawke and Mia's interactions, where she keeps telling Connor she needs to speak to him, that she wants to speak about this, when Connor dons the Green Arrow outfit and says that he's going to be Green Arrow, in the absence of Green Arrow. She keeps trying to talk to him. I want that conversation. Yes. It's coming up, and it's probably already been published at this point, because I've read 13 and 14 because I'm trying to stay consistent with the monthly pieces. But, man, is it a good story between them. What I love about this is you and I were big fans of the Team Arrow run. This book has done a great job of bringing back all of the newer characters, but also the people. It's weird to say legacy at this point in time, but you're going all the way back, through his history, and bringing characters back in and together in a way that makes sense. This family has been put back together. They're putting the toys back in place for the DC Universe gradually. And I like that each character family, each character series has done this organically, rather than... Now, it's like, it's not just a bam, everybody's back. It's people are back, but that time frame where they weren't still happened. Yeah. There were still years where people forgot, because of what happened. And we're still dealing with the after effects of that. And that's something that's really, really important. I do love that Roy's daughter is back in here, and seeing Team Arrow around the table, when they were having that conversation in the morning, especially that first issue where Black Canary comes down, where is Ollie? Yeah. They're all gathered around the table. That was something that just really powerful moments in those issues that are very much... She knows something's up. She knows this is a big deal. Ollie's somebody who died recently. So her being protective of him in the way that she is, but he's put himself in the center of this. To me, it's it's going to be such a sad moment if he isn't really on the side of the Angels in this one, because I need that from Ollie on this one. I'm so rooting for him to be the double agent that I'm hoping that he is. Be. Yeah, I am. I believe it too. Agent. Yeah, I believe it too. I'm with you on the Superman scene, actually seeing it that way. Seeing Superboy and his son, John, both sit there and fly on into the sequence and try to rescue his father is something that's interesting. What the Superman issue that corresponds with this, which is, what is that? Is that issue number 16?
16, yeah.
That's another read if you want to see what it's like when they're trying to save Superman's life. This is a Superman who's been depowered, who we're very used to Superman being able to tap into the sun, being able to wear regeneration suits and things like that to be able to enhance that particular property. What happens when all that's gone? It's a very, very, very good issue, and one that I would highly recommend if you want to see that piece. The other issue I'd recommend is Wonder Woman number 11. Wonder Woman 11 covers Diana's capture and what that looks like and how Diana sacrifices herself for the greater good because she recognizes an opportunity to save Billy and Mary. Yeah. And I thought that was really, really great. It kind of weaves in and out of the story. And weaves in and out of some of the Task Force VII issues as well. And I thought it was a really good story. I like what's going on with Billy and Mary and that the way that their powers are taken from them because Diana was actually the one that said Shazam, which I thought was super cool that like because they were together in that sequence, it ended up they were no longer Billy and Mary Marvel. They were no longer the Captain and Mary Marvel. Instead, they were the Captain and Shazam, however they're naming them now. Because that was no longer a thing for them, nothing was able to be siphoned off. They were actually not even noticed.
Yeah, and right after Wonder Woman, yeah.
Yeah, which I thought was a brilliant move on her part. You know what I loved about that issue? Detective Chimp. And his whole sequence, he was figuring it out. And why I'm referencing that issue in particular, it's another issue, and it happens multiple times throughout the storytelling, where there are references to the fact that the Amazo is speaking in a Victorian Victorian kind of
dialogue,
dialogue, whatever. That keeps coming up. I did a quick internet search about Amazon Victorian. All I'm seeing is other people referencing the fact that that's a thing. I'm not noticing, because he was referencing Charles Dickens and things like that when he was talking about it, and he was like on the edge of solving the mystery before his superpowers were kind of taken away.
Yeah, he's back to being a monkey now. Yeah. So.
A loyal one, though, because he was still fighting the good fight, even when that happened. And I'm a big fan of Detective Chimp and how that all played out. But that's something, that Victorian piece, do you have any... I'm going to admit, I have no idea why that's important right now. I'm holding on to it. I'm trying to gather why that's a clue, other than the fact that, does it name yet another player in this?
Okay, so here's something that I've been throwing through my head. And the Victorian piece is part of it, but I don't know exactly how it plays in yet. Mm-hmm. I think, as I mentioned earlier, there's the Trojan horse, that little hidden worm that Ollie slipped. I'm thinking Ollie slipped in Sanctuary Program. And part of that Sanctuary Program did go into each of the Amazos because everything's interconnected in a network. Part of me is wondering if the Trojan horse that's put in is to allow the different Amazos to get the personality of the people they're taking from. So think about it. The Victorian party is wondering maybe if, you look at who everyone that pulled from. The first person went into was a Constantine, went into, Diana, all the different magic users, all the different things. That, I think, is where it pulled in from them.
Okay.
Because the Victorian would be kind of like a British accent, and you got multiple Brits that were getting pulled from in that that salvo that was, the Amazo they're calling Paradise Lost, had all that in there. And you go into the one that's attacked John, the Alan Scott.
Yeah.
To see how that personality in one of the, and I want to say issue 3 of Task Force 7.
That's exactly what it is, yeah.
His personality was kind of getting pulled into there. And I'm wondering if that's the weakness for these Amazos, in that they do have the emotion of the person they're pulling from. Because you think about it, if the emotion and the personality can come through, the one that's pulled from all the Supermen, the Superman has all these great powers, all these great strengths, but it is his compassion, that is his strongest thing, his sense of doing what's right. Whereas, like I said earlier in this podcast, this would be my hero moment. This is not going to be Clark's, this would be my villain moment. This will not be Clark's villain moment. He will be more resound to show people, hey, no, we can be trusted. That kind of faith and loyalty in people can corrupt what the Wall wants to do. And I think I'm part of me is thinking that's where Ollie's double agent's going to play out. So it's already been introduced into all of the Amazos, I think. That's my guess.
And it is Task Force 7, number 3 that you're talking about, because its ending is leading next into Green Lantern number 14, which I haven't read as a part of this yet, I believe, because I believe 13 is the one that we read.
Yeah.
Right. So at the end of that, Alan is trying to get the Amazo to let them all go, because this is an Amazo that's struggling with choices now, whereas before it was it's part of the hive mind, and that hive mind, which is very interesting. If Ollie's been able to pull this off, we are now corrupting the hive mind from within. Because what is this going to do to Failsafe? You know what I mean? If they're connected and this type of thing is happening, is this ultimately going to have an effect on Failsafe at some point? I don't know. It's an interesting sort of piece. But Alan Scott recognizes that, okay, if you're not going to let the others go, what if I agree to go with you? We can talk more about your choices, which this is a being that is, this Amazo is very torn by what is happening. And keeps making the choices that are in league with the Wall, sort of. This is the first time that Amazo has veered off, because the Amazo was supposed to capture everybody, but instead she sent it back specifically for Alan Scott, and Alan Scott uses that to say, hey, what if I go with you? And I get what Alan's doing. Alan's like, there's an opportunity here for me to root this thing out.
Yep. For
me to hopefully take advantage of this. And it agrees. And here's the thing. Even the answer at the end, detain and report, yes or no. And the choice was not yes or no. The choice was to learn, which was green. And the color coding was very clear in this one, where this thing is much more interested in learning than anything else. It's developing a sentience of sort, which is really interesting. I'm going to be very, very curious to see where this goes. I loved the choice. It's a very, very good issue. If you're not reading Task Force 7 as a part of this, do yourself a favor and read it. It's a very, very, each issue spotlights certain events that are happening. In this case of number 3, it was really all about the JSA and after effects of Green Lantern. It kind of weaves in and out of different stories that are going on. There's so much of this that, yes, you can just read Absolute Power. You truthfully can. You can really just read it, and it's fine, and it's a great story to read on its own. But the usage of being able to give you a greater lens into these other books by reading some of these tie-ins, wow, are they stellar. I really enjoyed that issue in particular, though, to see what was going on there. It's got an, I will say this, reading them together is really important because of the fact that there is this ongoing story with Steve Trevor and Sergeant Steele that I'm really enjoying. This builds off of what was going on in Wonder Woman during the Amazon's attack event, and this idea of this friction where Steve Trevor is questioning Sergeant Steele, he's questioning Amanda Waller. Steve is now being, not only is Steve being kind of put into a little box to try and control him, Sergeant Steele is trying to do a smear campaign on Steve Trevor. We can't trust Trevor, so we need to discredit him. We need to put him under lock and key. Steve recognizes it ahead of time and escapes capture and is doing his own infiltration. I'm hoping we continue to get this cool Steve Trevor infiltration story where Steve's able to do something to help out in this process too. I love Steve Trevor. And the handling of him since this Wonder Woman, I've liked him before the Wonder Woman relaunch, but in this Wonder Woman relaunch straight through to Task Force 7 has been really, really good. I'm enjoying his appearances in Task Force 7 a great deal.
Oh, big time. Big time. And again, it's the usage of the different characters within the different Task Force 7 stories with all the different, tie-ins and whatnot have been really neat in the extra pieces of the puzzle. Mm-hmm. Like learning how, the time stream is basically getting corrupted now, because they jumped in. So heroes can't go back in time. Wall thought of that one. Cut off the multiverse and the dimensional stuff. I love the one scene it was in Absolute Power that when Ollie is talking to them, he's saying how they've cut off the time and the multi thing. And in his hand, you see the costume of the Atom.
Yep.
And you also see the one time, time hourglass that they use. And I love it's the Wall thinking of all these little stuff. And in some of the Task Force S stuff and the Ground Zero one, they're showing her using the manipulation, to what the Wall is. She, again, the master manipulator, master chess master. I'm like, she is absolutely an amazing villain to have. And stuff you talk about with the Trevor, where he sees what's going on, because Trevor is not just the soldier. He is also a spy. I think that is one of the keys to, Trevor. And again, it's one of those things where I'm liking the fact that we're not getting the thought balloons. Because, in a way, it would be neat to see what he's thinking. But in a way, I'm kind of really loving the fact that it's only visually stuff. Like when Trevor was sitting there and he had he saw the bug in the mic, and he's like, okay, he's setting me up to try to infiltrate me. And he's telling Steele, I see what you're doing. And of course, Steele just backhands him saying, okay, well, we'll just move up the game now and make something up. And again, Trevor taking out the people, doing what he can, infiltration. It's classic spy stuff. And some of the coolest spy stories have always been where they don't give you the full thought balloon. They don't give you exactly what's going on in your head. You got to base it on what you're reading. And that's something that the story is doing really well for me, in that I've got theories on how this ends, but I don't know for certain. It could be something completely different, and I love that. The end game, the heroes are going to win, but how do they get there? What does the victory look like? And it's that great mystery that has me going, this is awesome. And also, I want to know what happens to the Wall. We keep talking. There's so many different cool stuff, like what's going to happen with Ollie, what's going to happen with Animal Man, what's going to happen with the Soup family, the Bat family, with Wonder Woman, all these different characters. What's going to happen with them? I really do want to know what happens to the Wall in the end of this. Does the Wall stay the Wall? Do they take her down? Where does this go for her? That's
you have to, right? Like, I mean, how can the Wall stay? I'm with you. I'm intrigued by the whole piece. I guess I'm not sure how the Wall stays the Wall after this. I'm without some form of time. Like it's like when Luthor, was president and then went corrupt and he had to be shelved for a little bit. As a criminal and those type of people. They've locked up Luthor for long periods of time.
The funny thing is, how do you lock up the Wall? Because she's got so much manipulation on people that you're putting her in a prison. She owns all the prisons. So okay, we'll take the prisons from her, but she's still there's going to be back doors for her to get in and out of anywhere.
Well, that's so
it's that's the thing I want to know. How do they deal with the Wall?
Well, here's the reality. It's comics. There's not. Yeah. I mean, there's going to be a short term solution. Long term is. She's a character they're going to eventually, if they take her off the table, quote unquote, you know that they're going to bring her back at some point, because why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
So I mean, it's where does this storytelling logically lead to for her for right now? It's because what's going to end up happening out of this is, unless they have, well, then there's another possibility that they have some interesting alternative solution to the wall, with that story. There's so much to see out of this that I'm really intrigued with. Before we jump into talking a little bit more about her origin, I want to talk a little bit more about Task Force VII. Particularly, I'm kind of going strangely backwards, but number 2 with what was going on in Atlantis.
Yes.
Because some pivotal happenings happened in Atlantis. Aquaman's powers being taken away means that he is now all human, which is interesting. They took away his ability to breathe underwater. Aquaman, I've got Green Arrow on the brain. Aquaman, Arthur, is basically telling his people to stand down. They're ready to rally a resistance, and he's telling them to stand down. He tells them to stand down for the purpose of protecting them because of what's going on, that this is not the time for the fight. Yet so many are slaughtered anyway because of that. That's going to have ramifications. As far as how Aquaman's people end up reacting to that, right? Because this is an attack. Who are they going to blame for this, if you follow me? Because it is a massive slaughter that goes on as a part of this whole thing that I know he puts a stop to a certain extent, but it still has happened. The ramifications of what spins out of this, I think, are going to be incredibly interesting as far as that goes. I loved that issue, though, quite a bit, because it takes a whole very different group of people and describes what's happening there, and also brings into play the original Aqualad, the new Aqualad / Aquaman with Jackson, being a part of that. They bring in all of the right players in that sequence so we could see what was happening with them. I really enjoyed the use of those characters. I also like when people losing those powers, like Jackson being one of them, he doesn't give up the fight. Like, he still keeps fighting. He goes down because he refuses to bend a knee, for lack of a better way of looking at it.
One of the things I loved was the Amazo. He had Aquaman's powers, but also had the empathy powers working at the same time. Couldn't control it. So they pulled in the shark mindset. So not only was he using the sharks, but that same mindset, because the sharks had go or no,
right?
Yes or no, and that was and it was basically on a bloodlust. So that's why when Arthur tells everyone, "Hey, stand down," and they stand down, he goes, "No, you're not listening to you. You listen to me. I destroy you." And that was when they started to rise up in the slaughter. And all
yes.
And I love the fact that that the Amazo was affected by that. So that's part of me again. This whole thing, I'm wondering if it's the Amazos getting the emotions and all that are going to be the downfall of the Amazos. And that's going to be the part that Wall either, again, as I said before, I'm wondering if that's Ollie's little trick that he threw in there, or if that's just going to be a factor. I don't know. But that's some of the thing I loved about this, whereas this one was so different. Atlantis got slaughtered. There's like the people who are alive are the only ones who ran. The people who are fighting, and they all were killed. There's no, there's little to no survivors of Atlantis now. So the aftermath of Atlantis is it's either all or mostly decimated. So that, again, what's going to happen to Atlantis? What's going to be that downside? And I love how how angry the Wall is. Like, good, they'll be good allies. You didn't listen to me carefully. I didn't say they were big. They're not exactly allies. I took care of them. I'm like, we leveled Atlantis.
The first issue revolved around Billy and Mary, and the piece I really want to reference is the fact that there is a very good Black Adam piece in it, where he really holds his own against the Amazo up until the Amazo grabs him. Which I think is a real interesting thing. It's also worth noting that this series in particular is written by, each one of the issues is written by a different writer, who has a chance to do like a heavy focus on the particular character set that they're looking at. Which I guess I was I was surprised by what this series is turning out to be, because with the name Task Force 7, I was thinking in my mind that it was going to focus on, maybe I guess it's a team, Task Force 7. Yeah. It kind of is, but it's taking each of the Amazos and spotlighting them, which is adding more to your theory of this is really important stuff. How these Amazos are reacting, what we're learning about the Amazos during this. This really is the miniseries right now where you're learning about each of the Amazos. And it's very well written. Each of the creative teams that are involved in them, and they're choosing creative and art that kind of matches the theme and the style of the particular characters that they're covering as well, which is a good thing. That series were you expecting that from the series, what we got from it?
Oh God, no! I was like you were. I was thinking this would be kind of like Suicide Squad type of teams attacking. I was not expecting each of the different Amazos showing how they get their powers, how they take out the heroes, where it goes. And I absolutely, I'll be honest, I like this more than the thought I had in my head.
Yeah.
And again, the fact that we have different creators doing this again is something that's really showing why they're all working together. Each of the team, the creators are creating their own story, and they're telling the story they want to tell. But there's definitely, you can tell, this, robot is the same as what I feel in Absolute Power, and vice versa. The different characters, the different usage of them, they all feel like they have a good, solid commonality between them.
I want to jump back really to Absolute Power #1 and kind of wrap up the conversations about that issue before we talk a little bit more about Amanda Waller's origin in that first issue and maybe wrap up there. So Ollie's giving his speech that you were talking about before, where he's talking about how they cut off all the areas. And I love this dialogue. Still, I know you guys. You're thinking, we fought Amazos before. If we can figure out how to destroy them, our powers will be restored and we could win. Sorry, those are the old rules. This is a new design, new technology. What's taken is irretrievable. There is no return mechanism. Your powers are never coming back. The shot, and then it says at the end, the shots have been fired, the blitzkrieg has begun, super no more is kind of the ending of this one. It was a great ending. Those last 2 pages where we get to see what's going on with John Kent. What are they doing to this poor kid? Because he doesn't even know who he is.
Yeah. Well, he's plugged into something with the female Brainiac.
Right.
So she's doing something to him, and I don't know why.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what we end up doing with this poor, how we messing with this poor kid. The fear factor of this story is very, very genuine. Seeing him hooked up that way, it's a very, very, messing with the mind is always a very, very dangerous thing. So we talked about the Wall's origin, and a lot of the Wall's origin comes from the fact of, what happened to her daughter, what happened to the husband. And I like that they were using Batman's story in parallel, as far as there are some parallels between the two, but the response to both is very, very different. And how she was trying to get justice and basically was told, you're forget it. You're going to lose your life insurance because of the fact that your husband went and killed somebody, and there's no evidence that person was really the killer. And the difference there was, the way that he took actions into his own hands. There's circumstances that parallel, but the end result and how they're addressed is very, very different. You see Batman's plight and how Batman ends up handling things versus the way that, her husband, ends up trying to enact quote unquote justice, and it doesn't, end up paying off for him. And it really sets the stage for Amanda that it's a very manipulative world. And the only way to succeed is to have ethics, to have a cause, but also be willing to get your hands very, very dirty to make that happen. Every time she seems to try to interact with the world in a positive way, she finds dirt and secrets and things behind the scenes. I love that the file is a key one. She sees the file very, very early on, and all of the people who behind the scenes had their dirty little hands in what happened to her and her family. And I really love that she finds dark secrets and ends up using them later on. I was completely swerved by the Marvin Collins campaign because I knew that was going to go somewhere wrong, like it wasn't going to work out. But I thought that was going to be an example of Amanda being on the side of the angels and something going wrong and it further taints her. She walked in there knowing that, like, okay, on a very surface level, this guy is going to be the perfect patsy for an agenda that I'm trying to push. There's going to come a point in time where it's not going to work out the way I want it to, and I'm going to have to drop the other shoe on this guy and say, hey, guess what? I got a whole bunch of stuff on you. Not only do I have stuff on you, I've made up stuff for your wife. You're both going to be disgraced and discredited. So if you don't care about self-preservation in this piece because of your morality and your own feelings on this, fine. I'll destroy your wife in this process. So you smile, get out in front of the camera, you vote the way I tell you to vote, you present yourself the way I tell you to, because this is the way it's going to go. And she believes that's the right thing to do because of the agenda she's pushing there. I totally loved everything about this issue because very much so that those pivotal events of what happened to her family, multiple members of her family and how they were wronged and deaths of multiple members of her family, she was like never the same afterwards. She's like, control's been taken from me, and to the point that she's willing to risk relationships in her family for the greater good. You need to understand, everything I'm doing, I am doing for you. And she believes it. I really do believe in her mind. Amanda has been so tainted that she believes everything she's doing is for the greater good.
Oh, God, yeah. And it's the thing I loved was, like you, I had that was complete. When she's volunteering for this campaign, I'm like, oh, okay, And like you, I was thinking, okay, something else is going to go wrong, and she's going to go even down the path or something. Oh, no, the whole time it was a setup.
Yep.
And I loved that it wasn't just the setup for the guy. Again, it's about the manipulation. She knew if she took him down, it'd be nothing. Because he even says, go for it. This is my last-ditch effort to do something good. She's like, oh, no, I'm not going after you. I'm going after your wife. I've been cooking your books, making it look like she's skimming from this. Yeah. And the guy's like, wait, you can't do that. Who are they going to believe? The guy who used to take bribes from a drug dealer, or the widowed mother, single mother who's been volunteering for your campaign because she believes in what is going on, and she came across this theft that your wife was doing. I loved how, again, the wall was the wall. And this was the opening for her to get into the seats of power, for her to actually, this is the beginning step of her getting into Washington, getting into where she needs to be. This was the first one that she manipulated. This is her first master manipulation was this guy. And I love how it played out, where this whole time you're thinking one thing, and then when it's time to kick it into gear, when it's time to shift it, we see who the true wall coming out. And I was like, yes, this is the wall, baby.
Yeah. I'm completely with you on that. That part is something that I just really, really enjoyed about this, because it started to follow what you think is a story that you've read before. And there's nothing wrong with that. This is typically how you think that these stories are going to go, that there's multiple events that have led to her being this way. This is going to be yet another thing. No, she went in knowing that she was going to need to help get Marvin Collins elected. So she had a plan to try and get him elected. She knew that Marvin Collins on the surface would absolutely be the candidate that, and actually, I think she sought him out because of the flaws. Because of the fact that she had the tools to be able to manipulate. This put her in a position. It's not about Marvin Collins being in a position of power. It was about her ascending, her rising, her getting into positions of power. And this is how she operates behind the scenes. She doesn't care about being the public face. It's ultimately behind the scenes, anything she can do to manipulate to gain herself more power. In many ways, it's better for her to have the shield of somebody being there in the front. So if there's somebody that needs to take the fall, they can, and she stays Teflon.
Yep.
And it's such a great origin story that is being told here of an incredibly crafty, I want to say villain, but she's so much more than just a typical villain. John Ridley's doing a great job on this book.
Oh, God, yeah, big time. And it's one of those, again, she's one of those characters that you could very easily write her as the maniacal villain.
Yeah.
But, giving her this fleshing her out, giving her this reason why. Her daughter was raped and murdered. Then her husband avenged his daughter's death by killing the guy and dies in the process. But again, the police not only cover up for the rape and murder, they cover up the fact that he was killed off. He killed off this villain, this evil person, and they're like, oh no, it was, death while committing a crime. Wait, what? Oh yeah, he killed somebody. But he killed this guy who raped. No, we don't have the evidence. And the whole time in Gotham City, they're celebrating the Batman, this vigilante, who did what her husband did. And only just husband killed, the bat isn't killing. But again, I love how that little bit, she's like, they celebrate him over there, but here, my husband's getting, crucified. I'm losing everything, all because of the corrupt system. Mm-hmm. And that for me was, again, more, just a little bit more into the mindset of who the Wall is. We always thought we understood who the Wall was and what she's about. Now we're getting a little bit deeper into there. And she's got multiple kids. Now, I know they've mentioned the daughter before. I didn't know about the sons. That's the one thing I'm wondering is where they play into this mix, coming down the pipeline. Because she still has one daughter and two sons that survive for now.
Right.
Who knows what happens to them down the line, but I'm curious to see that.
Yeah, and that's something that I think has been really, really good from this story has been we're learning more about her. It's very, very I actually want to reference the cover, too. If you take a look at the cover, it's almost photorealistic.
Yeah.
And just the tears in the background and all of the hurt that's been there. I love that so much of what happens with the Wall feels real. Like it feels grounded in reality, which is something that's interesting. There's a sympathy you feel for her and her family that you can't help but feel. They were wronged, and she was created by society and by what happened. And there was an atrocity that happened to her and her family, and instead of getting support for that atrocity, she was met with nothing but gut punches. It builds to outrage, and you get why she wound up going the way that she did. It's incredible writing and an enhancement to the character, building off of her foundations in such a great way. I did not know we were getting an origin of Amanda Waller out of this. This is a really great, on its own, it's a really great series to read. I'm one issue in. I can't wait for 2 and 3. The only thing that's holding me back is the fact that I'm trying to read this with the event, because what we're still trying to figure out at this point is this going to be a 3-part or a 4-part discussion, and that's going to be kind of something we organically go to along the way, because there's a lot of story here that's going on and a lot of characters that are being covered. But if you did not read Absolute Power Origins, oh my gosh, you've got to read this. This is a really, really, this is a gem and worth reading on its own.
Oh, big time. This is an amazing Wall story. If you're a fan of Amanda Waller, this is a must-read.
Yeah. So, month 1 so far. Oof. Very successful.
Month 1 so far. Oof is right.
Reaching melting point. Not sure we can make it.
RagingBullets.com is, of course, our show website. We have a show voicemail line. It's just 1-440-388-4434, or drnorge on Skype. RagingBullets@gmail.com is our email address. You prefer to contact us that way. We love having you part of our show. The About Us section of our show website is where you can find out how to connect with us on social media and other platforms. You can hear me every other week on Is It Jaws, where I've been kindly asked to be co-host from host Paul Spataro over there. It's a movie review podcast. We use the Jaws 1 through 4 scale to rate and evaluate movies, and always have some amazing guests on there and cover a lot of different film series. We are proud to have an amazing Facebook group community, and I want to appreciate all the people that are over there. That's where I go for my news first and foremost. People will post blog postings and news articles and things like that related to the shows. Also, you can react to our episodes. Tell us what you think. Any questions, any corrections as well. There's been times where corrections will come out of that, and I love that. Part of what I like about the interactivity between us and our listeners is that people aren't afraid to reach out and let us know some things that we may have been a little inaccurate about. Even pronunciations. Sometimes we get pronunciations wrong, even of characters.
What? Us? No.
I know. But I really do enjoy learning those things as part of the two-way interchange. So thank you for everyone who participates over in our Facebook group community. We are sponsored, as always, by DCB Service and InStockTrades.com. Mr. Seglin, what is going on over at DCBService.com?
JSA number 1, 50% off, $199. Justice League Unlimited number 1, 50% off, also $199. Thank you, DCBS.
Over at InStockTrades.com, you're going to find the deals of the week. We got Batman hardcover Volume 3, The Joker Year 1, $29.99, regularly 50% off, only $14.99. Nightwing 2021 hardcover Volume 5, Time of the Titans, $24.99, regularly 50% off, only $12.49. And, of course, Ultimate Spider-Man by Jonathan Hickman. Trade paperback, Volume 1, $19.99, regularly 46% off, only $10.79. I want to thank DCB Service and InStockTrades.com for continuing to support our show and so many other podcasts. They're really a great company to work with. We will see you next week.
Bye.
All right, you guys. Are you ready to sing your song?
I'd say we are. Yeah, let's sing it now.
Okay, this should be fun. Now get ready for your cue. Okay, Sean?
Okay.
Okay, Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Raging Bullets time is here. We talk about what we hold dear. Comic books and TV shows. Superheroes and their clothes. Justice League and so much more. I just love Green Lantern Corps. We talk about the books we've read with spoilers straight ahead.
Okay, fellas, get ready. That was very good, Sean.
Naturally.
Jim, you're a little flat there, so be careful. Jim? Jim? Jim!
Okay. Justice League and so much more. I still love Green Lantern Corps. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show. DC Comics are what we know. The Raging Bullet Show.
Excellent job, guys.
Let's sing it again. Yeah, let's sing it again.
No, that's enough. Let's not push it.
Push it. What is that? Yeah, what are you talking about?
No, I didn't mean anything by that.
I think
Sean,
it's right
Jim,
there. I don't know.
how long do you want the song to go?
Look, it's our production.